No one ever talked about the night the sky fell apart above Outpost K-19. Most people pretended it never happened. Elias Vaughan remembered every second. The alarms had screamed first, sharp and desperate, cutting through the quiet of deep space like a knife. Red lights flooded the narrow rescue bay as explosions rippled through the alien slaver ship drifting ahead of his battered human cruiser. Metal screamed. Gravity failed. Somewhere inside that dying vessel, children were trapped. Elias didn't wait for orders. He never did. His ship's AI warned him the structure was collapsing. Federation cannons tore chunks out of the hull. Fire spilled into the vacuum like living things. Elias locked his helmet, kicked off the airlock, and launched himself toward the breach. Inside, the corridors burned. Smoke clawed at his lungs as he ran. His boots splashed through leaking coolant and blood that shimmered strange colors under flickering lights. Cells lined the walls. Too many. Small hands reached through cracked force bars. Voices cried out in languages Elias didn't know, but fear always sounded the same. Then he saw her. She was curled in the corner of a shattered containment pod, no bigger than a human child of 6. Her skin glowed a soft blue-violet, cracked with fever burns. Silver hair clung to her face. Her eyes, wide, bright, terrified, locked onto his. She didn't scream. She just reached for him. Elias scooped her up, feeling how light she was. Too light. Like she was already halfway gone. Her small fingers wrapped weakly around his sleeve as the ship shuddered again. "I've got you," he said, even though he didn't know if she understood. The evacuation timer echoed through the halls. 1 minute. He ran. The shuttle bay was half destroyed when he reached it. Fires blocked the exits. Only one escape craft remained. One seat. Behind him, the cries grew louder. Elias looked down at the girl in his arms. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes fluttered. He made his choice. The shuttle launched just as the slaver ship tore itself apart. The explosion lit space like a newborn star. Elias didn't look back. As stars stretched into light, he pressed his forehead against the cockpit glass and whispered a promise he had no right to make. "You're going to live. And your life will matter." 20 years later, Elias Vaughan believed promises were lies people told themselves to sleep at night. His freighter, the Wayward Sun, limped into Orion Trade Station with one engine coughing and the other praying. Docking clamps slammed into place, rattling the ship's tired frame. Elias winced as an old scar flared across his ribs. He was 45 now. Older than he felt inside. Younger than his bones suggested. He shut down the engines and reached for his cargo manifest, already preparing excuses for customs. That was when the docking bay went silent. Too silent. Elias opened the hatch and stepped out. The bay wasn't empty. It was full. Dozens of aliens stood in perfect formation, tall and elegant, their glowing skin reflecting the station lights like polished crystal. Their robes flowed as if gravity was optional. Every silver gaze turned toward him at once. At their center stood a woman. She was tall, taller than most humans, and moved with calm confidence. Her skin carried shifting patterns of light, like stars under glass. Her silver hair fell freely down her back. Her eyes held centuries of history and something painfully familiar. Elias froze. His chest tightened. His breath caught. She stepped closer. "Elias Vaughan," she said in flawless English, her voice steady but warm. "You carried me from fire when I was a child." The cargo pad slipped from his hands and clattered to the floor. Memory slammed into him. Fever-bright eyes. A small hand gripping his sleeve. A dying ship. "You," his voice failed. "You survived." "I did," she said. "Because you chose me." The station workers stared. The guards didn't move. No one dared interrupt. "My name is Sarai of the Luminary Accord," she continued. "By the laws of my people, a life saved binds two paths together." Elias swallowed hard. "What are you saying?" Her gaze softened. "I came to fulfill that bond," she said. "I came to be your wife." The words hit him harder than any explosion ever had. Elias staggered back, one hand bracing against the hull of his ship. "That's not, I'm just a pilot. I didn't do it for." "I know," Sarai said gently. "That is why it matters." A low murmur rippled through the gathered aliens. Elias shook his head. "You don't understand humans. We don't marry because of debt." Sarai tilted her head slightly. The same gesture the little girl had made long ago. "Then perhaps," she said, "it is time the galaxy understood humans better." Before Elias could respond, station alarms blared again, this time different. Sharper. Dangerous. Red icons flared across the bay screens. Unidentified warships. Incoming fast. Sarai's expression darkened. "They found us sooner than I hoped." "Who?" Elias asked. "My enemies," she said calmly. "And soon, yours." The station trembled as the first shot struck the outer shield. Elias looked at the woman who had crossed 20 years and half the galaxy to stand before him. He looked at the terrified dock workers. At the helpless station. He clenched his fists. "Get on my ship," he said. "Now." Sarai smiled, not gently, but proudly. "That," she said, "is exactly what I hoped you would say." Outside the viewport, the stars burned brighter as war arrived. And humanity, once again, was about to surprise the universe. The first thing Elias Vaughn did was lie. He lied to station control. He lied to the dock master. He lied to the security officer trying to shout questions over the alarms. "Cargo containment failure," he said, voice calm, hands moving fast. "Hazardous material. Clear the bay." It was nonsense. But humans had a special talent. They could say nonsense like it was official policy. People didn't question confidence. They followed it. The bay cleared in seconds. Sarai moved beside him like a shadow made of light. The luminary guards, those elegant figures in robes, flowed after her into the narrow airlock of the wayward sun. They didn't push or panic. They looked like they had trained for this moment their whole lives. Elias sealed the inner hatch, then sprinted for the cockpit. The ship shuddered as another impact hit the station shields. 2 incoming vessels, his ship AI reported. Small combat class. Their transponders are masked. "Masked means pirates," Elias muttered, dropping into the pilot's seat and waking the engines. "Or worse." Sarai stood behind him, watching the tactical screen. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes flicked with calculations. "Not pirates," she said. "These ships belong to House Vaya." "Never heard of them." "They are not famous," Sarai replied. "They prefer it that way." Elias hated that sentence. It sounded like the kind of people who killed you quietly. "Why are they after you?" he asked. "And why now?" Sarai's glow dimmed slightly, the patterns on her skin shifting from bright starlight to deep sea colors. "Because I ran," she said. "And because I spoke the Bond claim out loud, in public." Elias blinked. "Wait. Saying it out loud does something." "Yes," Sarai said. "Now the Accord must recognize it. Now the laws apply. Now the galaxy must pay attention." Elias stared at the screen, jaw tight. "So you didn't just walk into my life. You lit it on fire." Sarai didn't flinch. "I lit a signal," she corrected. "One that forces my enemies into the open." "Great," Elias said. "Nothing I love more than enemies in the open." The wayward sun detached from the clamps with a groan. Elias punched the thrusters. The freighter drifted away from the station, slow at first, like an old animal refusing to run. The 2 incoming warships flashed onto the screen again, sleek, sharp, fast. They were already firing. Blue lances of plasma struck near the station's edge, cutting through drifting debris like a blade through cloth. One shot grazed Elias's freighter shields, and the cockpit filled with warning tones. Elias swore. "My ship is not built for this." Sarai stepped closer. "Then don't fight like they expect." Elias glanced back at her. "What do they expect?" Sarai's silver eyes sharpened. "Fear." Another bolt screamed past the freighter. Elias shoved the throttle forward. The wayward sun lurched, protesting. The engines didn't roar, they coughed like an exhausted man climbing stairs. AI, Elias snapped, dump cargo mass. Everything non-essential. Elias, the AI replied in a tone that sounded almost offended, that is 70% of your income. Do it anyway. Containers released from the rear hold like a trail of metal breadcrumbs. The freighter suddenly moved a little leichtly. Lighter, quicker. Now, Elias whispered, we dance. He swung the ship toward the station's outer ring, where shipping lanes were clogged with floating junk, discarded hull plates, dead drones, broken solar panels, old satellites that never got collected. The pursuing warships followed instantly, hungry and confident. Sarai watched the debris field. You are leading them into trash. Exactly, Elias said. Trash is honest. Trash doesn't care how fancy your ship is. He cut the engines. The freighter went silent. The pursuing ships overshot, their pilots expecting the human to run forever. Elias fired side thrusters, spinning the freighter sideways, letting momentum carry them behind a drifting slab of old armor plating. The warships turned back, confused for a moment. That moment was everything. Elias hit a switch. A cheap, illegal device welded to his engine manifold screamed to life. Chaff burst, his AI warned. It will blind sensors for 4 seconds, Elias finished. That's all I need. A cloud of metallic shards exploded outward, shimmering like a storm of silver dust. Sensor screens on the enemy ships flickered. Elias launched the freighter straight down through the debris field. Plasma bolts chased them, missing by meters, carving holes through scrap metal and sending shards spinning. Sarai held the back of Elias's seat, steady as the ship jolted. You planned this, she said softly. Elias grunted. I planned for being chased. I didn't plan for being chased by your royal death squad. The freighter narrowly avoided a shattered drone. A piece of debris scraped the hull, sending vibrations through the frame. Sarai's guards remained silent in the corridor behind the cockpit, but Elias heard one of them inhale sharply as the ship nearly clipped another object. Then Sarai spoke in a language Elias didn't understand, fast, musical, cutting like blade strokes. She spoke into a small device on her wrist, and the air vibrated with hidden power. What are you doing? Elias asked. Calling the laws, Sarai said. A pulse ran through the comm system. Suddenly, one of the pursuing warships hesitated. Its fire stopped for half a second. Elias saw the shift on the tactical screen. What did you say to them? He asked. Sarai's lips tightened. I reminded them that striking me now, after my public claim, marks their house as oathbreakers. Oathbreakers lose protection in accord space. Elias almost laughed. So they're scared of paperwork. Sarai's gaze flickered. In the accord, law is stronger than guns. But only when someone has the courage to use it. The first warship, the more cautious one, slowed, then pulled away. It didn't flee. It simply stopped chasing. The second warship didn't. It dove harder, guns blazing, ignoring the warning. Sarai's face turned colder. That one belongs to the Veya bloodline directly, she said. Their commander would rather die than retreat. Elias's hands tightened on the controls. Then we might have to help him die. Sarai leaned forward, close enough that Elias felt her breath like warm air against the side of his face. Elias, she said quietly, do you have weapons? Elias grimaced. One old rail launcher. Half illegal. Half broken. Sarai nodded once. Good. Good. Elias repeated. That's not. Sarai pointed to the debris ahead. That satellite, she said. Its core is still active. Its power unit is unstable. Elias's eyes flicked to the target. His mind raced. He understood. Instantly. He swung the ship slightly, lining up the old rail launcher. The targeting system was so outdated it felt like aiming with a flashlight in a storm. The enemy ship closed fast, confident again. Elias fired. The rail slug ripped through space in silence, striking the satellite's core. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the satellite erupted in a brilliant flash, a blooming sphere of blue-white light. The shockwave punched through the debris field like a giant hand. Elias slammed the freighter into a hard roll, letting the blast wave shove them sideways instead of crushing them. The pursuing warship wasn't as lucky. Its shields flared, overloaded, then collapsed. The blast threw it into a spin. It slammed into a thick slab of station scrap with a deafening crunch. The warship broke apart. Silence fell in the cockpit except for Elias's heavy breathing. The AI spoke first. Threat eliminated. Elias stared at the screen, then slowly exhaled. I'm getting too old for this. Sarai didn't celebrate. She looked out the viewport, watching burning fragments drift like falling stars. That pilot chose death, she murmured. He will be praised by his house. Elias turned. So this isn't over. Sarai met his eyes. No, she said. This was only the knock on the door. Elias leaned back, running a hand over his face. All right. Tell me the whole truth. No more poetic half-sentences. Why are they really hunting you? Sarai's glow dimmed again. Her voice dropped. Because I am not only a survivor, she said. I am the last living key to something the Accord buried. Elias frowned. A key to what? Sarai took a long breath. To a human secret, she said. And to the reason your species is more dangerous than the galaxy understands. Elias felt a chill in his stomach. Humans were used to being underestimated. It was how they survived. But Sarai said it like a warning. Like a prophecy. The freighter drifted into open space, away from the station's chaos. Stars stretched wide around them, cold and endless. Elias looked at Sarai and realized this wasn't about marriage. It was about a promise made in fire. And the price that promise would demand. The wayward sun drifted far beyond normal trade lanes before Elias finally powered the engines down to idle. The stars out here felt colder, sharper, like they were watching instead of shining. Elias sat in the pilot's chair, staring at nothing. Sarai stood near the viewport, her glowing patterns dim and slow, like embers instead of fire. All right, Elias said at last. You said truth. Start talking. Sarai nodded once. 20 years ago, when you saved me, the Accord classified the event. Elias frowned. A slaver ship blowing up isn't rare. The ship was not important, Sarai replied. The cargo was. Elias's jaw tightened. Children. Yes. But not just slaves. She turned to face him. Test subjects. Elias's hands curled into fists. Tested for what? Sarai took a breath, steadying herself. For adaptability. Elias looked up sharply. Explain. The galaxy believes intelligence is measured by knowledge, Sarai said. By age. By how long a species has existed. The older a civilization, the more advanced it is assumed to be. That's mostly true, Elias said. Sarai shook her head slowly. It is comfortable. And wrong. She tapped the console, pulling up an old data projection. Genetic maps, neural scans, reaction curves. Elias recognized the shapes instinctively. He'd seen similar charts in military briefings long ago. These children, Sarai said, were taken from dozens of species. Fed identical problems. Identical threats. Identical limits. And? Elias asked. And humans broke the model. Elias stared at the data. Humans weren't on that ship. No, Sarai said softly. But your people were the control group. She enlarged one chart. Human neural activity spiked wildly compared to the others. Under pressure, she continued, most species attempt one solution. Maybe two. Humans attempt 10. Half of them insane. One of them usually works. Elias let out a short breath. That's not genius. That's panic. Sarai's eyes gleamed. Exactly. She paced slowly. Human children, when faced with unsolvable problems, did not freeze. They cheated. They lied. They redefined the problem. They used broken tools in ways no engineer would approve. Elias's lips twitched despite himself. Sounds familiar. The Accord panicked, Sarai said. If humans matured without limits, without supervision, they would outgrow the power balance. So they tested everyone else, Elias said. To find counters. Yes, Sarai replied. And they failed. Silence filled the cockpit. Elias leaned back, the weight of it settling in. So why you? Sarai's glow deepened. Because I was the anomaly. She touched her chest. I adapted like a human. Elias looked at her sharply. I learned from observation, she said. From chaos. From mistakes. From watching humans die and still stand back up. Her voice wavered for the first time. That made me dangerous. So they killed your parents, Elias said quietly. Yes. And now they want you dead. Yes. Elias exhaled slowly. And the marriage bond. Sarai met his gaze. The bond forces recognition. It binds my fate to yours. It legally classifies me as under human protection. Elias laughed once, harsh and humorless. So you married the most unpredictable species in the galaxy to survive. Sarai tilted her head. I married the one that already chose me once. That landed harder than Elias expected. He stood, pacing the cramped cockpit. You realize what this means, right? Earth doesn't even know what kind of game this is. Sarai nodded. Which is why the Accord fears humans. You act before permission. As if summoned by her words, the ship's AI chimed. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, it said calmly. Elias stopped pacing. How many? 5. Surround pattern. Sarai's expression hardened. They are done pretending. The stars twisted as ships dropped out of hyperspace around them. Sleek. Black. Marked with no insignia. Elias stared at the tactical display. We're outgunned. Yes, Sarai said. But not outmatched. Elias snorted. That's optimistic. Sarai stepped closer. Elias. Do you trust me? He hesitated. Then he remembered a burning ship. A child reaching for him. Yes, he said. Then broadcast this, she said, sliding a data crystal into his hand. What is it? Truth, she replied. The kind the galaxy buried. The enemy ships opened fire. Elias didn't dodge. He transmitted. The signal burst outward on every open channel. Accord frequencies. Pirate bands. Trade lanes. Civilian nets. Data spilled into the void like a scream. Test records. Kill orders. Genetic trials. Names. Dates. Coordinates. The galaxy watched. The enemy ships hesitated. One of them broke formation. A voice crackled over open comms, sharp with disbelief. This data is forbidden. Sarai stepped into the open channel. So was my execution. Another voice joined. This implicates the high Accord. Yes, Sarai said calmly. And now it is public. The silence that followed was not empty. It was afraid. Elias felt it. Even through the hull. One by one, the attacking ships powered down weapons. Not retreating. Waiting. Because somewhere, someone powerful was recalculating. A new signal flared. Human military encryption. Elias blinked. That was fast. A voice came through, steady, controlled. Unidentified freighter. This is Earth Defense Command. You're transmitting classified material. Explain. Elias looked at Sarai. She nodded. This is Elias Vaughn, he said. And I think you should hear what the galaxy's been hiding from us. A pause. Then, we're listening. Sarai smiled, but there was sadness in it. This is the moment, she said softly. Where humans stop being underestimated. Elias glanced at the surrounding alien ships, all waiting now, uncertain. Humans had no empire. No ancient fleets. No perfect laws. What they had was momentum. And once humans started moving, history followed whether it wanted to or not. The stars outside didn't care. But the galaxy did. And for the first time, it was paying attention. Earth Defense Command did not shout. That was how Elias knew things had become serious. When the human military shouted, it meant panic. When it went quiet, it meant thinking. The holographic comm stabilized in front of Elias, resolving into the image of a woman in a dark uniform. Her hair was tied back tight. Her eyes missed nothing. "This is Admiral Rhea Calder," she said. "State your situation clearly." Elias glanced at Sarai. She gave a small nod. "We're surrounded by 5 Accord Black Ops vessels," Elias said. "They attacked without warning. We responded with data." Calder's eyes flicked sideways, reading streams only she could see. "Yes. You certainly did." A second voice cut in, sharper, older. "Those files are authentic." The image split. Another figure appeared, civilian clothes, tired eyes, a scar across his cheek. Elias recognized him instantly. Dr. Malek Orr. The man who had disappeared from the Human Adaptability Program 20 years ago. Elias felt cold. "You're supposed to be dead." Malek smiled without humor. "So was your passenger." Sarai stepped forward, allowing herself to be seen on the channel. Her glow brightened, steady and controlled. "I am Sarai of the Luminari," she said. "And I claim protection under human bond law." Admiral Calder's eyes widened slightly. Just slightly. "Bond law." Calder repeated. "Yes," Sarai replied. "Recognized by the Accord. Binding. Publicly invoked." Malek let out a slow breath. "Do you understand what you've done?" he asked Calder. Calder didn't answer him. Her gaze remained fixed on Sarai. "You're saying," Calder said carefully, "that by their own laws, the Accord has tied one of its most dangerous secrets to a human civilian." "Yes," Sarai said. "And by extension, to humanity." Silence stretched. Then Calder smiled. It was not a warm smile. "That," she said, "was their first mistake." Around the wayward sun, the alien ships shifted. Formation loosened. Weapons powered down, not in peace, but uncertainty. They had expected fear. Negotiation. Silence. They had not expected escalation. Calder's voice hardened. "All human assets in range, mark and observe. No shots unless fired upon." The enemy ships froze. Sarai turned to Elias. "Your people adapt quickly." Elias shrugged. "We're good at learning when someone punches us." Malek leaned closer to his camera. "The Accord built their power on control," he said. "Humans don't control well. We improvise." Calder nodded. "Dr. Orr, draft immediate legal challenge. If their law binds her to us, we enforce it aggressively." Malek's eyes gleamed. "With pleasure." Within minutes, the galaxy's networks ignited. Human diplomats flooded Accord courts with challenges, injunctions, and public demands. Every clause. Every loophole. Every contradiction. Humans treated law the same way they treated broken machines. Take it apart, figure out how it worked, then use it in ways never intended. The Accord's greatest weapon, its ancient, rigid legal system, turned into a cage. Sarai watched the data flow with awe. "You're not attacking," she said. "You're suffocating them." Calder heard her. "We don't need to win wars," she replied. "We just need to make them too expensive to fight." One of the alien ships finally broke silence. "This is House Veya," a distorted voice said. "Human command. Disengage. The bond is under dispute." Malek laughed. "Dispute denied. Filed 8,000 years ago. Subsection 12. The channel went dead. Elias leaned back in his chair, stunned. You planned this? Calder shook her head. No. You did. By surviving. Sarai closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her glow had changed, brighter, stronger. They feared humans because you were unpredictable, she said. Now they fear you because you are inevitable. The Accord vessels began to retreat. One by one, they jumped out of hyperspace, abandoning the field without firing another shot. The wayward sun floated alone again, surrounded only by stars. Elias exhaled. So, is it over? Sarai looked at him. No. Calder nodded grimly. This is just the beginning. The Accord won't forget this humiliation. Elias rubbed his temples. Figures. Malek folded his hands. But they've lost their secrecy, their greatest strength. And now every young species is watching how humans respond. Sarai turned to Elias fully now. And you, she said. You are still bound to me. Elias met her gaze. You sure you want that? This just painted a target on my back the size of a planet. Sarai smiled, genuine and fierce. I learned from humans, she said. If you're going to be targeted anyway, you might as well stand for something. Calder cleared her throat. Mr. Vaughn, Earth would like to offer you protection. Elias laughed softly. Funny. I just spent 20 years avoiding governments. Calder's lips twitched. Then you'll fit right in. The channel faded. The cockpit fell quiet. Elias looked out at the stars, then at Sarai. You know, he said slowly, this all started because I picked one child. Sarai stepped closer. You didn't just pick me, she said. You proved something. What's that? That humanity doesn't wait to be important, she said. You decide to be. Elias thought of burning corridors, crying voices, one seat, one choice. Yeah, he said quietly. That sounds like us. The wayward sun turned toward Earth. Behind them, the galaxy rearranged itself. Ahead of them, something new waited, fragile, dangerous, unstoppable. Humanity had entered the conversation. And it was not leaving. Earth hung in the viewport like a promise and a warning. Blue oceans. White clouds. A fragile world that had survived by being stubborn, creative, and just a little reckless. Elias Vaughn had never thought he'd be flying back like this, escorted by human defense ships, carrying a woman the galaxy feared more than any weapon. Sarai stood beside him, watching Earth grow larger. Her glow was steady now, no longer flickering with uncertainty. They're afraid, she said quietly. Elias nodded. Good. Fear means they're paying attention. The wayward sun entered Earth's defensive perimeter. Human ships formed a loose escort, not tight, not rigid. Humans didn't like formations that couldn't bend. Admiral Calder's voice came through the comm. Prepare for planetary descent. Be advised, Accord representatives are already planetside. Elias groaned. Of course they are. Sarai turned to him. They will try to break the bond. How? By forcing a choice, she said. Elias frowned. That sounds bad. It is, Sarai replied calmly. The landing platform outside Geneva Spaceport was surrounded by security, cameras, diplomats, and more lawyers than Elias thought physically possible. Banners of Earth fluttered beside neutral Accord symbols. As Elias and Sarai stepped onto the platform, the noise dropped into a heavy, waiting silence. An alien delegation stood opposite them, tall, ancient beings whose eyes held centuries of control. At their center stood a figure wrapped in dark ceremonial robes. Sarai of the Luminari, the figure said. By authority of the High Accord, this bond is challenged. Sarai did not bow. Elias noticed that. On what grounds? She asked. On the grounds of manipulation, the figure replied. The human was guided, influenced. His choice was not free. Elias felt heat rise in his chest. That's a lie. The figure turned its gaze to him. Human Elias Vaughn, if given the choice again, knowing the consequences, would you still have saved her? The platform went silent. Every camera zoomed in. Sarai did not look at Elias. She let him choose. Elias swallowed. His mind raced back 20 years. Fire. Screams. One seat. He saw all the lives he hadn't saved. He felt the weight of them every day. Yes, he said. The Accord figure raised a hand. Even if it means war. Yes. Even if it costs your planet resources, safety, lives. Yes. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The figure leaned forward. Then you are irrational. Elias met its gaze without flinching. We prefer the word human. Admiral Calder stepped forward. The bond stands, she said. By your own law, intent matters. And his intent was clear. The Accord delegation hesitated. That was when the sky changed. A massive shadow slid across the clouds. Gasps erupted as an ancient Accord dreadnought tore out of hyperspace above Earth, its weapons glowing. Sarai's glow flared bright. They were never going to accept this, she said softly. The Accord figure spoke again, voice cold. Sarai of the Luminari, renounce the bond. Return to us. Or watch your chosen world burn. Every human weapon system locked on instinctively. Elias felt something settle inside him. This was the moment. He stepped forward. No, he said. The Accord figure ignored him. Sarai. She turned, not to them, but to Elias. This is the last choice, she said. If I stay, Earth becomes part of this conflict forever. Elias took her hand. Then you won't face it alone. She searched his face. Not for courage. Not for heroism. For honesty. She found it. Sarai turned back to the Accord. I refuse, she said. The dreadnought-powered weapons. Earth's defenses lit up. And then, everything stopped. A new signal flooded every channel. Not military. Civilian. Colony worlds. Young species. Fringe systems. Broadcasting the same message. Support for Earth. Support for Sarai. Support for the idea that no ancient power had the right to decide who mattered. The Accord had ruled by silence. Humans had broken it. Dr. Malek Orr's voice cut through the chaos. The Accord's legal authority has collapsed. Member worlds are seceding. They are choosing sides. Admiral Calder smiled grimly. And they chose us. The dreadnought hesitated. For the first time in its long existence, it was alone. Sarai raised her hand. Her voice carried across every channel. This is what you feared, she said. Not human strength. Human connection. The dreadnought powered down. Slowly. Deliberately. It jumped away. Silence fell over Earth. Then the platform erupted. Not in cheers. In something deeper. Relief. Elias let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for 20 years. Sarai turned to him, her glow warm and bright. The bond is complete, she said. Not by law. By choice, Elias said. She smiled. Later, as Earth's night lights shimmered below them, Elias stood beside her on a quiet balcony. So, he said. Wife, apparently. She laughed, soft and real. Husband, unexpectedly. Elias looked out at the stars. You know, the galaxy's going to regret underestimating us. Sarai leaned into him. They already do. Humanity hadn't won by force. It hadn't won by age or power. It won by doing what it always did best. Making one impossible choice. And standing by it. Among the stars, that choice echoed. Forever.